I'm going to bring Alex in here. Do you think tank? Do you play for? Where do you think this franchise is right now? Kind of only about a third the way through the season.
Portland, as it sets today, is 2 games out of the 7 seed, and I believe 1.5 out of the 8 because the Suns and Timberwolves can't win either. Mm-hmm. So that's good. That plays in our advantage. I think that we should still continue to try to win because you've got Dame in his prime years, CJ's in his prime years. You've got them locked up with contracts. And my biggest thought process on this Kevin Love situation, Steve, is if we do trade for him, because it's so hard to get free agents to Portland in the first place, you got to trade for him or draft them. So we have a guy who's a proven star who says he wants to come to Portland, and he'd be locked up for 4 years. I don't see how you don't at least give that some serious thought, especially when Hassan Whiteside's contract is expiring. So you better get something for him before you can't get anything for him.
I worry a little bit what Kevin Love 4 years from now looks like. I mean, we've seen concussions, and he's hardly played this year with injuries. Maybe it's because he's fed up with Cleveland and doesn't want to, but that seems like a guy just who's got some wear and tear on that body, and I'd worry about. Again, I like Kevin Love. I first interviewed Kevin Love when he was 15 years old. I went to destroy him his freshman year, and at Lake Oswego, and I always liked following him. I just doesn't seem like a guy who's in maybe aging quite the way you'd want going in. So I'd worry a little bit about. And what do you do next year? Then do you bring Collins off the bench, and then suddenly you're telling a third year Zach Collins out? You were the starter last year. You're not this year. Do you tell Kevin Love you're coming off the bench? I just don't know how that works out.
I don't. That's tough. The situation with that is we don't know when Collins is coming back exactly. They're still trying to win now. No one has said anything to the contrary that they're not trying to win. So we're still trying to win. We're still very much trying to make the playoffs. We have, experience. We went to the Portland went to the Western Conference Finals last season. I think they're still in win now mode. And I think whether the GM wants to say it or not, I think he is trying to get Kevin Love, and he might have even been the one who started the rumors. I don't know. Yep. What do you think about that, Steve?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. I like what Travis said that, hey, look, nobody who ever has, kind of smelled out a Neil Olshey trade before. I also thought it was interesting, though, that the story with Jason Quick at The Athletic, Jason Quick, one of my best friends, so I'll throw that one out there, but his story in The Athletic, it almost felt like maybe when Olshey comes out and says, hey, look, any trade we're making is going to be for the future, it almost felt like Neil wanted to come out and make it clear that, hey, look, if people think that we're going to give up, one of these expiring contracts just because we can and make a big run for the playoffs this year, there's no chance we're doing that, and I'm not going to have people come in here and try to kind of give us some bad contract or something like that for one of these guys. So it felt like Olshey was trying to make the point, hey, look, we're not in any panic mode. We're going to be really calculated about that, and if you think you're going to come in and catch us making kind of a herky-jerky deal because, hey, we got to try to make the playoffs this year, we're not in that kind of a mode.
No, you don't trade Little, you don't trade Simons. They're the future. I mean, I think a lot of Blazer fans and pundits and people that watch the Blazers would agree with that. I think that if you do make that trade, you can't let Cleveland be in the driver's seat with the negotiations. You have to let them know you're scratching each other's back in a sense. You don't want them to take advantage of you, and we don't necessarily have to take advantage of them, but we are doing them a favor if we do trade for him because we're taking on a huge contract for a guy who's going to be 36 years old by the end of it.
Yeah, and a Cleveland team that's certainly aiming for the future. I thought it was weird when they signed Lev to that deal. It was almost like they had lost LeBron, and it was like they wanted to tell the fan base, all right, hey, look, we're not giving up. We're still going to keep him, and we'll overpay and pay him a few extra years, too, if we need to for this. And I thought it was weird when they signed him, and inevitably, anytime there's a 5-year deal for a guy and you're like, well, that's not going to look good at the end, normally it doesn't look good after by year 1 and year 2, and that's what we're in right now. Yeah,
it especially didn't look good from the beginning because he immediately got injured after signing that, which was, very, great timing, I guess. And I think Cleveland signed him to that contract because when they lost LeBron and then, they lost Kyrie, it was like, we need to give the season ticket holders of Cleveland something. Mm-hmm. We have to keep them in the mix because the last time they had a mass exodus, people were burning jerseys on the steps of the queue.
Yeah, and I actually think Portland's in a really good, and part of it is what you're talking about doing. They don't have to tell fans, hey, we're still moving on. The fans know that next year this group comes back and they'll be in a good spot. I also think, you talk about the Blazers. The Blazers aren't going to tank because Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum aren't going to tank. So that's part of it there. But also, this idea that where they're at now, 10-16, I mean, even if they lost a bunch, you're not getting a top. I mean, I know the lottery's been retooled where you could, but odds are the best they get to in terms of just kind of the ranking would be like the number 7 pick. If you make the playoffs as the 7-8 seed, you're looking at maybe the 17-18 pick. I mean, basically the difference between tanking and not might be 6 draft picks. And let's face it, the NBA draft is a crapshoot. This year, Tyler Hero might be one of the best players. P.J. Washington are 2 of the best rookies in the league this year. They went 12 and 14 last year. I mean, we're looking at guys that went, in the top 10 that aren't nearly performing that. So this idea that we're going to give up on this season to get the 10 pick rather than the 16 pick just doesn't make sense in that way. And so that's why I think you can tell Damian and CJ, look, we're not taking it all. We're going to keep playing knowing that, hey, we're probably, even if we get in the playoffs, we're still going to have a decent pick. We're not going to tell anybody to tank because we know you guys wouldn't. But, maybe we tell you to take a night or 2 off, but we're certainly not going to tell you to tank any night you're out there.
No, and I don't, last season when the Knicks tanked, they put all their eggs into the basket of we're either going to get a really high draft pick or we're going to get Kevin Durant, and they got neither.
Yeah.
So and they ended up getting Randall, which has been a bust so far, and he's actually on my fantasy team, so I'm very familiar with him.
They got one of the Morrises. They got
Marcus Morris,
Bobby Portis. They got like 7 power forwards and like 3 point guards last offseason.
Yeah, the best thing about Bobby Portis is he hasn't punched anybody on his team yet, so that's good.
Yeah, I just think, like I say, I think this Blazer, I don't even think it's a debate, do you tank? Because I don't think you tank because you're not going to get, if you're the Warriors, you tank. You're in that position now where you could suddenly get a top pick and add that to a Klay Thompson,
yes,
Draymond Green, Steph Curry. I think there you do that. If you're Portland and you're debating between we're going to be 18, we're going to be 10, because they're 10 and 16. This isn't a team that's, sitting down there with the Warriors and the Bulls and the Knicks right now. I mean, this is a team that there's enough teams, they'll beat teams, and they may. But if you miss the playoffs for a little bit, you got a shot at a good lottery pick, but odds are it's not going to be a huge difference. So I think you tell you guys, go out and play, keep working hard. We'll
agree.
Play this thing. And, hey, Damian and CJ, maybe we, instead of 38 minutes a game, we might play you 32, 34, especially as the season goes on. If there's a back-to-back late in the year and you're feeling a little sore, let us know. We'll give you one off. Nurk, when you come back, hey, we're going 15 minutes when you first start. Maybe we'll work it up a little bit, but we're never going to bring you back fully. Zach, take the year off. Rodney, take the year off. Let's do some scouting. Let's see what that 15th pick ends up being, 14th, 16th pick ends up being. Suddenly this team that we came into this year talking about, having championship hopes at least, is back. Whiteside's gone, but he's replaced by Nurkic. You lose Bazemore. You got a max contract. I mean, maybe you can find somebody who, not an Evan Turner, but actually a guy who can help you, who you can bring in on a max deal. And suddenly it's, that's the other reason you don't really tank this year. It's not a franchise that's trying to kind of hit bottom to rise back up. I think it's a franchise that feels heading into next year they'll be okay, just with the guys that'll come back from injury.
Well, yeah. When you were talking to Travis Demers earlier in the interview, he said we've had a run of bad luck. Once we did start getting some momentum, another player would go down, and then we'd win a couple of games, and then another player would go down. So it's hard to maintain a momentum or consistency when your lineup is different every night.
It's also crazy. This is the one year. It feels like the last couple of years there were nagging injuries for Lillard. There were things that would bug him, and he had to miss a couple games here and there. And this is the one year when Lillard and CJ have both been ready to go for every game, and suddenly their front court changes every night, and they got Carmelo Anthony in there with them. So yeah, a little bizarre that way.
Well, it's just, and Carmelo's been such a pleasant surprise, and that was another thing I didn't see coming. So I would like to see them actually win some games, Steve.
I'm actually waiting for Carmelo to come out with a trade demand. Where he's like, look, I came back. I proved to you guys in 3 weeks I could play, but I didn't come to play for some non-playoff team. LeBron, give these guys a call, see what you knew to get me down there. I told you I was good. You didn't believe me. I want to come join you for this thing.
That would be the worst ending to that story of all time.